All right, welcome to Adding Integers Part 2. We're going to learn more about the opposite, which is also known as additive inverse. We're going to find absolute values, and we're going to look at adding two or more integers together and looking at some of those rules a little more clearly. So the question here is the opposites or additive inverses of the following numbers are, okay, so what's the opposite of 2? Negative 2. What's the opposite of negative 2? 2. What's the opposite of 4? Negative 4. What's the opposite of negative 4? Positive 4. Opposite of negative 100? 100. And then the opposite of 0? 0. Alright? Pretty easy. Just change the sign. It's opposite. Alright? Not too bad. So you'll have to do that in your practice later. The absolute value of a number, so that's our symbol again, the two brackets, is always positive. Alright? And if it's 0, it remains 0. So if a number is positive, its absolute value is also positive. Alright? The answer will be positive. If a number is negative, the absolute value answer is also going to be positive. Alright? So with absolute values, how far away from 0? Alright? How far away from 0 are you? So it's always going to be positive because we're looking at how far away, the distance from 0. Alright? If you forgot that, you can write right here, distance from 0. Alright? Right here, the absolute value of the following numbers are. So how far away from 0, because these brackets are saying absolute value, how far away from 0 is negative 12? 12 units away. How far is negative 2? 2 away. How far is 4? 4 away. Alright? And then how far is negative 4? 4 away. 100. So just positive values. Alright? It's just the opposite. Well, not the opposite, positive. So absolute value, how far away from 0? Remember, though, if there's a negative in front of your absolute value, the absolute value of negative 4 is still 4, but because of this negative, we got to keep it, right? This negative is not inside the brackets, so that comes. But this is positive 4, right? This answer is positive 4, and this negative stays in front because it was on the outside. All right? Remember that. Remember. Okay? And then from your notes, all right? Remember from your notes, the sum of a positive and a positive. So when I add a positive and a positive, my answer is positive. When I add a negative and a negative, it is more negative, right? It is more negative. It's negative. All right? And just remember that when we're subtracting, we got different signs in the middle between the integers. So when I have two integers and I got a plus minus, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to find the difference between those two, and then whatever one's bigger, that's the sign we're going to use. Alright, so let's go ahead and jump into some practice. Alright, find the sum, the signs, when the signs are the same. Alright, find the sum, the signs are the same. So let's look right here. If the signs are the same, we're going to use that same sign as our answer. So positive 2 plus positive 4, I'm going to have a positive answer. So 2 plus 4. 4, 5, 6, right? Negative 2 and negative 4, I'm going to have a more negative answer, right? So then more negative 6. Negative, negative, my answer is going to be negative. So I'm going to have a more negative answer of negative 12. Okay? Negative 12, negative 3, I'm going to have a more negative answer, negative 15. Positive 14, positive 5, I'm going to have a more positive answer. Alright? Now what happens if the signs are different? Alright? So this is where a lot of you stumble up. So let's look at some of the steps. The number with the greater absolute value is, all right, 24, right? So 24 is the greater absolute value. So the sign is going to be, since 24 is bigger with the absolute value, 24 is, we're going to use that sign. All right? Negative 24 is not big, it's just the 24 itself is bigger. So we're going to use that sign. That's what the absolute value means, okay? So negative 24 and 20. All right, and what's the sign? Well, negative, because the 24 was bigger. The bigger one here, the number with the greater absolute value is 40. So this is what we're doing when the signs are different. All right? So 20, absolute value is 24, 4, I forgot that part. Absolute value of negative 20 is 20. Absolute value of 40 is 40. So the number with the greater absolute value is 40. So the sign is going to be whatever sign this is. The sign of the 40 is positive. So the difference between 20 and 40 is 20. But which sign am I going to use? I'm going to use the positive sign because the 40 was bigger. All right? Absolute value of negative 5. Absolute value is 5. Absolute value is 3. All right? So which one's bigger? The 5 is. What's the sign of that? It was negative. All right? So negative 5 plus 3. Well, what's the difference between 5 and 3? 2. What sign am I going to use? Well, the 5 was bigger. I'm going to use that sign. All right? How far away from 0 is 8? 8. How far away from 0 is negative 14? 14. So that's my absolute values. Which one's greater? Well, the 14 was. What's the sign of that absolute value before we found it? It was negative. Then I'm looking here. Now let's do the 8 plus negative 4. Well, what's the difference between 8 and 14? How far away is 8 and 14? Well, it's 6 units away from each other on a number line. So maybe we'll make some number lines tomorrow before we get started with all these notes. If we look right here, what sign do I use? Which one's bigger? Well, that 14 absolute value was bigger, so that's why we're going to go with the negative. All right. Absolute value of 34 is 34. Absolute value of negative 24 is 24. So which one's bigger? The 34 is bigger. What's the sign of that one? It's positive. Right? So now we're going to find the difference between 34 and 24. Oh, it's 10. What's the sign of the bigger one? Was positive. So my answer is positive 10. I want you to do 6. Call me over and let me check it out. And I want to see everything, every spot filled out. And if you need help, let me come over, okay? So that way I know you got through the notes and everything's looking good. And if you need me to re-explain, okay? Call me over. Addition property of being associative. Okay? Addition has the property of being associative. Whenever you add integers, the order of addition or grouping of integers does not matter. Okay, so if we look here, even with parentheses, when we're adding, it doesn't matter where I put the parentheses, I'm still going to get the same answer. That's associative property. All right, so 1 plus 2 is 3, 3 plus 3, 6, 2 plus 3 is 5, plus 1, 6. It's all 2 plus 3 is 5, plus 1, 6. So it doesn't matter where I put the parentheses. Addition will always be associative when it's just addition. All right? Go ahead now. You're going to turn the page. You're going to work through a whole bunch of practice. As you get stuck, I need you to ask for my help right away. Thank you.